Hey guys, what's up? It's Taser. Bringing you a video today just regarding Destro and Tomb of Sargeras, mainly for the Lock One Stop Shop homepage, and yeah, just gonna put all the information on there, and this video will be up on the homepage there. I just really wanted to talk to people about how destruction is going to be in Tomb of Sargeras, trinkets, legendaries, general talent setups, and how you play Destro on like a boss by boss basis, I guess, utilizing talents on each boss and why. Towards the end of the video I'll go through how warlocks will actually come out in TOS, like all of the specs, for example, what I think, whether you'll be fine playing it, like playing destruction throughout the whole instance, maybe different legendary setups on each fight, and yeah, let's get started. So generically, you really want to run this build for single target and anything you play Destro on. After 3 targets, 3 or more consistent targets at least, or like the introduction of 3 targets, you can run ELT because that damage will ramp up definitely there. Circle is great on every fight, obviously. Circle is kind of indifferent if you want to run it or not. But you can, yeah, I'll go through each boss and then I'll say where I think Circle is pretty good. But yeah, this is the generic build. I mean, Supremacy does seem higher on pure single target for Destro, but I'm sure a lot of you know I like to put things into practice rather than just go for the best single target build. So you'll see a few things in here which I do, which you might question, and yeah, I'll be happy to. Hopefully, I can clarify that. But yeah, for my build, I'll run single target. I'll run service when I play Destro. I just think it's a bit more practical on a progression scenario. Like if your pet has to move, then obviously you lose DPS. Whereas you can use service as a GCD spender on the move. So you can use it as movement, as well as rifts, conflags, and life tap, of course. But yeah, this build is generically what you want to go into. Legendaries, it's pretty well known that shoulders and braces are the best. You can arguably swap out Sindore on, let's say, Demonic Inquisition for maybe Magistrix, or maybe you can swap, like on Harjaten, you can swap, let's say, braces out for Ferritory, and you can play F&B there, for example, and just have insane shard increase. But yeah, I mean, Destro legendaries are pretty interchangeable other than shoulders. You pretty much need shoulders. Sindore are good, but obviously they decrease in value the longer the fight goes on and the amount of Doom Gods you'll get out. But yeah, everything regarding legendary numbers and stuff will be on Lock One Stop Shop, and yeah, you can check there if you want some info and real numbers on them. In regards to trinkets, obviously I'll go on to trinkets now, and then I'll get started on boss by boss stuff and how Warlock is good on each fight, for example, or Destro. So at least in Heroic Week, Tomb releases in 2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks. And patch comes next week, obviously, but you really would like to get Charm. If you want to play Demo, if you don't want to play Demo, then that's fine. You don't have to get Charm, but at least for me, this is one of my go-tos. I think it's a really good, really useful trinket on progression. An on use like this that gives you a stat that you can play around, it's pretty useful. But pure single target for Destro, where is it? Where is my medallion? This one is a very good trinket, so if you do get the opportunity to get this, I would suggest this. It's an on use, so you can game around it, but it's on the target, it's direct single target. It doesn't scale with extra targets, so anything other than single target, yeah, it will obviously decrease in value. But what I'll be running at least is Charm and Whispers for Heroic Week. The Whispers change doesn't really affect the 9-10 Whispers. It's mainly aimed at the high end, 955 Whispers, for example, so it doesn't go too stupid. I think they're both very good trinkets. Whispers I'll probably swap out for a good stat stick or something like that on progression. But yeah, let's get into the bosses and talk about Destro. So, Goroth, your entry level boss, pure single target, very basic boss. You can utilize Gateway and Circle on this fight, but for the most part you'll be running this cookie cutter build, and arguably you could play sub on this boss and just position your pet properly, and yeah, like as long as your pet doesn't move, sub is very good. The difference is obviously marginal between sub and serve. I personally like serve because you can game it with more things. It adds a different level of depth to your gameplay rather than just AFK pet on boss pretty much. But Goroth, there's not much to talk about on Goroth really. It's a very simple boss. DI is a bit more interesting though. So on DI, the core mechanic of this fight is adds pretty much. There's two targets. Sometimes you can't always attack both targets because there's a mechanic that gives you torment, which is not good on that fight if you cap. But for example, on this fight, I would run ELT. The rest stays the same. You can change to Reek or Soul Conduit. I would most likely use Soul Conduit on progression because I'll just have Immolates on all of the ads. Rain of Fire in them because they're pretty stacked, and throwing CBs here and there. But for the most part, you would run, at least this is what I think is the best if you play Destruction on that fight. I'm not sure if I will, but Destro was definitely very good on the test. It was competing. Yeah, DI, it's all about ad management pretty much. As long as you're keeping on top of ads with having your immolates on top, then you should be fine by playing this build. But like I said, you can play Reek. Reek is good here. It will just decrease the amount of shards that you actually are spending. Harjatan is a cleave boss. On testing myself, I played this. So this is the build I played on Harjatan because it's mostly single target with intermittent ad cleave, and there's a period where the reason why I chose Wreak Havoc on this fight is because you can bank shards on the boss. There's an egg mechanic that you need to kill, and it's protected until the boss does a cleave, a frontal cone. So what you do, you just bank up shards. You put Havoc maybe 1 second or 0.5 seconds before the boss casts that on the timer, and then you just start loading your CBs into the egg. So you're maintaining good boss damage and you're smacking the eggs. And you can play Soul Conduit on this fight, but I do think Reek is very good here. The reason I say about Soul Conduit is because there's an element of lots of little ads, so you can just throw Rain of Fires down and have Immolates on them and just, bathe in Rain of Fires basically. And your damage does go up, but where the damage is needed, I feel Reek is better. Because you can use Reek outside of the egg phases, of course, but I feel Reek having that reduced cooldown on Havoc and having it on boss and the egg, it's super powerful. And yeah, I think Reek is justified by how often these ads come in. Let's go back to Sisters. Sisters, it's hard for me to say because we was just about to transition to last phase. And it doesn't read as if a Reek build would be better here, because too long didn't read. You get to phase 2 and an ad spawns. It's called Moon Talon. It's an ad. It had 220 million health and the boss is still active, so that's the only point that we saw, at least. The 2-target cleave is available, so in that case you wouldn't run Wreak Havoc, you'd just run CDF. I think you'd run CDF on this fight, and you'd go Soul Harvest, and yeah, everything else. And you would go Rad on this fight, actually, thinking about it. I played ELT on test, but that was only for the 2-target period, but a Rad will pull ahead, because I didn't know we was going to get there, obviously. But yeah, you don't need Shadow Fury in this fight, so that's fine. Let's go on to Mistress. Mistress was a really nice boss for Destro. If you pick up the buff, if you get one of the first ones, you're swimming. You can play. So here I'd go ELT. Boss damage is important here, but you get a damage buff. So I'm thinking, at least the later phases read pretty cleave oriented. So I would go ELT here personally. I feel Irad is only good enough on pure single, and anytime you get 3 targets, ELT will pull ahead. So going back to Mistress, you have ads on the fight called Abyss Stalkers, so yeah, and you have to kill them 10 seconds before the tornado, and they came in every 45 seconds ish. Could be a bit longer than that, it could be a bit shorter. I'm not entirely sure. I need to check my sheet, but yeah, on this fight I went Reek, Kata, and Kata was really useful here because how often the ads come in, you will have Kata for everyone. You can also go F&B here, like Kata and F&B are pretty interchangeable, but Kata is extremely strong. The only reason I'm leaning against F&B is because when the ads come in, it's not like you need to have perma Rain of Fire on them. They need to die before a certain time, but they don't need to be like, you know, they don't need to have Rain of Fire on them all the time. So in essence, it's a bit paddy to go F&B. You could also go Soul Harvest and just manually dot them, and that's fine too. I think come progression, Soul Harvest would be the go-to towards the end of the fight, but early stages, Cat will pull ahead. Desolate Host. I played Af here. I think we still have. Yeah. Af is pretty good on this fight, I must say. Irrespective of that though, I did play Destro on this fight and I did go F&B. The reason why I went F&B at the start is because the ads are intermittent, so it's not like they wasn't lining up with the Kata waves at the start, and then I changed to Kata afterwards, and Kata seems to be better, but it's same situation as Mistress, right? You kind of want Soul Harvest on a progression scenario. Like Soul Harvest is pretty strong. On this fight it was ELT, by the way. It's like 7-8 targets up at most times, depending on the strat you're using, and I went Conduit here because there wasn't really a need for 2 target cleave. It was more of there's a boss in each phase. It's like a dead phase, and then it's like downstairs and upstairs, we call it. So yeah, I went ELT here. You pretty much stay the same build. The only one that the only rows that you really change is tier 60, and you would be fine if you didn't even swap tier 100 ever, to be honest, and tier 30. But in TOS it's a lot of single target. Not saying you have to play Destro on every fight, of course, but yeah, at least on my tests, that's what I did. And by the way, just to clarify, like when I'm talking about what I ran on all of these fights, I ran these 2 legendaries, other than on Demonic Inquisition, where I ran Chaos Vault Braces, and Harshaten I played with them too, but I preferred Sindora in the end. Maiden is really nice, actually, a really good boss for Destro, mainly because when you pull the boss, you have maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds until it phases, and that's a pretty ideal burst window for Destro. And yeah, you can all utilize Gateway and Circle here too, but I wouldn't advise that. It's a bit sketchy with the way the boss works. So going into Maiden, you know, you pull the boss 35-40 seconds your phase. So why it's pretty good for Destro is because you get stunned. So you've done like a great opener, and then there's a damage buff component of this fight which lines up with Soul Harvest pretty well. So hold on, where is it? Grace and Vigor. Yeah, here we go. So these are the damage increases, different color orbs, and you stack them. I'll check Discord in a sec. Yeah, so you stack them and it lines up super well with Soul Harvest. Depending on how long the fight is, Sindora might not be the best combination here. I would probably go Feretory towards the end of progression, depending on how many Doom cards I get out. But it feels like you don't have Sindora ready for your damage increase, because you lose too much on the pull if you don't use it, and the pull is pretty crucial. The main part of this fight is maintaining the damage buff, of course, but the fight is very gimmicky, let's say that. It's very intricate, and I think Destruction is very good here. Obviously I did play all specs, but yeah, we're talking about Destruction for the purpose of the video, so Destro's looking good, so I wouldn't worry. And onto Avatar. Avatar, I probably think is the best boss for Destro in the instance. Maybe not in last phase, but I don't think the last phase requirement will be as important as doing the first phase properly. Talents, by the way. So on this boss you go Rad, Soul Harvest, Service, and CDF. So this fight is pretty much single target. You're not allowed to hit the Maiden at all. There's a phase where the Maiden gains a shield called Crimson Protocol. and if you don't deplete the shield, she'll kill the raid basically. But what's important about this is that she does a shield for 25% of her health, and obviously 25 times 4 is 100, so you get 4 shields out of her if you do it perfectly, and then you phase the boss. So you need to ensure you have great single target, a great burst, and you need to have great ability to swap to adds and maintaining damage on the boss, and you know, who's better than that other than Athlog or Destruction? And the reason why Ath falls behind on this boss is because you don't want to pre-dot Maiden, because you'll push her over her shield threshold if you want 4 shields, whereas Destro is fingertip burst. You don't need to like prep it. You can prep it on the boss, sure, but you don't need to hit her to prep your damage, is why I think Destro is super strong here. So you maintain great damage on Maiden and great damage on Avatar, and you know, you just bank 5 shards and you go to town on Maiden. And yeah, that's why Avatar is a pretty good boss for Destro. You can, you know, optimize Gateway and Circle, of course, on this fight, but I won't go too far into boss specific mechanics. I just want to outline how well the spec will play out on the fights. And last but not least, Big KJ. Probably one of the best bosses I've had the opportunity of testing in a long time. Great fight for Warlocks. Initially so there's an add-on the fight. I'll go a bit more into this at the end, but there's an add-on the fight where 3 adds, you spread them out or you can stack them. Initially we were spreading them out, so it looks really good for Warlock. Even if they're closely knit, you can still, you know, tab and you can bank your shards, and you're maintaining damage on the boss, and you're maintaining damage on these adds. So that's why Destro is pretty good in this phase. And we was just about to enter this intermission on the test. So another reason why Destro is good here, you get let me see, stage 1, Shadow Reflection. So these are the 2 adds I was talking about. This one is the one that DPS get, and this is a tank ability. So 1 ad spawns from this tank one every time it goes on the tank. And this had like maybe, I think it was 111 million HP, so it's pretty ideal for Destro. You know, you immolate it, you have shards ready for it when it comes out, and you just go to town with Havoc, so you're maintaining damage on boss and the ad. Yeah, you know, and 100 mil should die within about, let's say, if everyone swaps it, maybe 10 to 15 seconds. It shouldn't take long for a fully decked raid to kill this. So that's why it's pretty ideal for Havoc. Obviously I can't give you much more information going into the later stages of the fight, but having read the abilities, it sounds very Destro-esque, and it just sounds suited to it. Don't get me wrong, all Warlock specs are looking very, very good in TOS right now, so we're probably fine if we play any spec on any fight, but you know, focusing on Destruction here, and just, you know, focusing on the core and how good it will be on each fight. But yeah, in regards to bosses, that's pretty much it for bosses. The talent setup is pretty cookie cutter on most bosses. You know, you can opt to change tier 100 and tier 60, and you change tier 30 on a few fights, but other than that it stays the same. What I wanted to touch on obviously was Warlocks actually going into TOS and Heroic Week. Heroic Week will be pretty ideal for us because our current tiers are, you know, pretty good. Like, they're not bad at all. Especially the Destro one. Like, going into TOS like before you get the new set, it's pretty good. So we're in a good spot. Playing Destro on every boss, you'll be fine. So, you know, to all your Destro lovers that you know, just love playing the spec, you're gonna have a good time in TOS. There's not much more to say about how Destro will be because I don't actually fully, you know, I can't confirm that until I see perhaps Heroic Week nerfs or Mythic Week nerfs. So, but right now we're looking strong, so no worries about that. And another thing I wanted to get to was just some potential legendaries on fights. I mentioned it briefly when we was going through the bosses, but really you don't want to change shoulders like ever. You can interchange Sindore for Magistrikes, and arguably you can swap Feretory and Cephas on some fights too. You know, proccing Cephas is extremely strong for Destro. You know, you can prep it so you can proc it just before an ad wave comes in. Sorry, let me close my window. Sorry about that. But yeah, you can proc Cephas before an ad wave, and then you just go to town. If you have full shard, you have immos rolling, you can drop a rain of fire, so it's 4 or 5 targets, and you can just spam CBs into another, keeping rain of fire up, because your shard income will be great with Cephas and immo on everything. So yeah, Destro is looking very strong. Warlock's looking very strong in general. One tip, or one, I guess look at it as a Bible, yeah? Shoulders, they're your Bible. You need shoulders. Like, you'll do fine without them, but you will have a great time if you get shoulders. So if anyone's told you, no, don't worry about shoulders, they're not that good, please try and get them, boys. You've got time, so put the time in and you should be fine. But yeah, I think that covers everything. It was just a quick video. Hope that cleared up any misconceptions and worries people had about going into TOS. Maybe I'll do another one soon. I guess you let me know on how you guys received this on, you know, the Lost homepage. And thanks for watching, boys. Take care.